Basically, my talk really today is just to bring you up to speed on what's been going on with Google, how they have basically affected the landscape of SEO with this new mobile change that they've been implementing. Basically, one big thing to know about Google is they have this algorithm. They use this algorithm on their search engine so that they can rank your website based upon a series of factors that they actually don't even give you. But we have had to figure it out by ourselves. And we're still, as the layman, as the expert, you're still trying to figure out exactly the combination of things that work to make your site rank higher. But basically, each year, Google goes in, changes their algorithm about 500 to 600 times. Now, some of these changes are very small and some of them are very big. A few of the big ones that they've actually come out with have been Panda, Penguin, and Hummingbird. Penguin was a change that was recently, or made back in 2012. It was basically trying to get rid of all of the black hat SEO people. And these are people that basically use back channels to build links. And building these links would basically point to their website and they would generate a bunch of domain authority. And if you don't know what a domain authority is it's basically what Google uses as a way to rank you higher more often. Now, one of the other big changes was actually Hummingbird. Now, this actually was one of their smaller changes. They were actually looking at how long tail keywords were being used to drive traffic. It wasn't so much of a change as much of it was a research study, but these are two big changes in which have been implemented in the last several years. And the third biggest one, and it's the one that caused the biggest damage to me, I actually have a story about this. In 2011, I was a young man at St. Joseph's University. I was running a record label through our university. I had built a website for our record label, and we were ranking high in everything. Like if you searched record labels Philadelphia, recording studios Philadelphia, we were coming up #1. Well, what I didn't realize, because I hadn't had that much experience with SEO yet, was that Panda had come out. And what Panda did was it basically went in and it just evaluated your entire website for every single thing that was wrong, from on-page to off-page to technical issues. And I didn't realize at the time that we had a lot of off-page issues. So here I am, I just built this website. I'm super excited. I'm running up to the dean to show him what we had just done. We're ranking for all these things. There are 10 members of the marketing school there, 9 teachers and the dean of the business school. And I pull up our website and I go and I type in Google record labels in Philadelphia. Nothing. First page, second page, third page, 50th page, nothing. And I'm sitting there and I'm like having a heart attack because not even, I'm telling you, a day before, everything was working out perfectly. And all of a sudden the dean is sitting in the back of the room and he goes, "Well, Mike, I guess today the music died." And and I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, I guess it did. Here's this guy who just spent like $5,000 on me building this thing as a 20-year-old. And what I actually found out later was what actually brought me into SEO. So one of the failures in life actually brought me into SEO full time was Panda. Panda basically had came in and wreaked havoc on our entire website. What I had actually done was I had gone to a bunch of forums and kind of posted that 1851 Records was a record label out of St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia. This was not looked very highly upon because these forums were actually generating tons of spam, tons of just explicit content that I was not aware of. And so Panda wreaked havoc on about 12.5% to 20% of all websites internationally. And it was one of the biggest things that had ever hit in terms of an algorithm change. Now, here is the next big one. I'm not sure, this is actually a video I had made. I'm not quite sure if it's gonna work, which is why I kind of jumped over it. But this is the way I felt that day when, that's literally what Panda did, actually. No joke. That was a pretty serious day. The next big thing is, I'm sure you may or may not have heard about it yet, but Mobilegeddon. This is the new biggest algorithm change that actually isn't named yet, but everyone's calling it Mobilegeddon. I'm going to dispel some rumors rather quickly about it. I'm not sure if everyone here knows about it, but I'm going to discuss it. But I'm going to dispel a few rumors about it, and you will understand more at the end if you don't know a lot about Mobilegeddon. But a lot of people are very worried that your mobile site will affect your actual desktop rankings. As of the Search Engine Land conference this year, Zeneb is a man from Google. Basically, he came and he spoke and he said that your mobile rankings, the way your mobile site is viewed in terms of being mobile friendly, will not affect your desktop rankings yet. So don't become worried that directly it will affect you, although it can indirectly affect you because, as most of you know who use Google Analytics, you can evaluate and differentiate between desktop traffic and mobile traffic so that you can actually see that the mobile traffic being driven to your site, which indirectly influences your overall rankings because traffic effects is one of the heuristics that the algorithm actually uses to rank you higher. So it's indirectly influencing you, but not to an extent to which is a huge problem yet. I would say in the next 6 to 12 months, it could potentially turn into a problem. One of the next things is the Google Mobile Friendliness test. Has anyone seen that? Can anyone raise their hand if they've seen that or used that? Okay, that's crap. That thing is terrible. It's binary, so it's basically either yes or no. So I've actually been working with some websites where, this is a funny little story. I just got an email recently where this guy came up to me and he said, Mike, I recently heard about Mobilegeddon. Hopefully we won't have a Bruce Willis type situation where an asteroid's going to hit my website. And I was like, no, like, don't worry about it. It's really not that big of a deal. He said, I went onto the mobile friendliness test and it said that I was completely failing. Well, it tells everyone that, because even if you have 1% of something wrong with your website in terms of mobile friendliness, it will say that it's terrible. So what you actually have to do is, and I'll show everyone later on, is that there's actually a test that you can do on your cell phone. It's called the site query test, where you can type in site, semicolon, then the name of your website, and it will tell you how many pages your actual website is being indexed for on your phone. It's a little bit better indication of what Google is actually noticing right now. But basically, for a bigger reason is, why is Google doing this? What is Google's focus with Mobilegeddon? Is that Google's basically purpose has always been to bring the best search results to everyone. I mean, they want to make sure you're finding exactly what you want when you want it, because that makes them the most amount of money. And what they noticed was, over time, is that as mobile traffic becomes larger and larger, people were not able to find exactly what they were looking for. And because people are becoming more and more mobile, I mean, how many people in this room use their tablet at home? I mean, how many people in this room use their mobile phone at home? No one's sitting at their desktop anymore and just looking for things. It's just not the way it is. And as we progress farther and farther into the future, and I'm sure for any mom or dad here that has children who wants to get their children off the tablet, they realize that these kids are using it more and more often and more efficiently than even I do. So they're going to be using it as we move into the future. Another big thing is, Google also likes making money. It's really about app placement. Google basically has figured out that on mobile, they're able to rank their apps higher based upon what you're searching for. And basically, they can, due to their data analysts and the things that they've figured out, they can rank their apps higher, and they can actually compete with Apple and Amazon and every other major company that is competing online for apps, services, products, anything of the sort. But the big thing is I realize this is e-commerce, and why is all this such a big deal for you guys? Well, it was touched upon earlier in the very first talk, but in this next year, there's going to be $334 billion spent in e-commerce alone. 50% of all traffic online for retail websites is coming from mobile. But here's the big deal, is that 50% is actually coming, but more people are still buying on desktop. And that's an issue of how people perceive time, as well as how people perceive security. And I think the big thing with this is, as a child, I've been using computers since I was 5 years old. I've built a relationship with a computer. I'm very compatible with it. I understand that in my last 20 years of use, I've had 2 issues in that entire time in terms of security. In terms of using a product for that long, that's not really that bad to have only 2 issues in that long. So I'm very accustomed to using my phone to buy something, because I realize in my head that it's just an extension of my desktop computer. It's just a smaller computer right there. And as we progress into the future, I believe that we will see more and more people buying on mobile. And it's just due to the fact that the demographic of people that are buying, the people with the actual decision power of buying, are somewhere between the ages of 30 and 55 right now. And that's where we actually see a lot of people purchasing. And that's where we see a lot of people right now who are very scared of buying on through their mobile, because they misunderstand that it's just an extension of their computer, really. And that's kind of one of the things I would like to dispel today. Like, your mobile phone is just an extension of your computer. It's just as safe as anything else. I mean, there are a few things, but if you're at Starbucks and you're on their wireless access, someone can get to you just as fast through your cell phone as they can on your desktop. There's really no difference. So buy away on your phones. It's great for business. Next big thing is, I realize that right now, everyone keeps hearing about SEO, and this is the big thing with this change right now, is in the past, you could go to a SEO service that purely provides SEO and just say, I need some on-page, I need some off-page, I need some technical suggestions. And you can still technically do that. But what Google's done now is they've said that if you're not mobile friendly, we will basically affect your rankings on mobile, which is changing. You have to change the very infrastructure of your website, which means no longer can you just go to that SEO service that just provides SEO. You have to actually go to the person in which has built your website, which obviously leads to a whole other slew of problems in terms of communication and passing information around. I mean, we've already seen it. One thing I just saw was actually we had a mobile site come to us that was built by an SEO company that didn't build their original website. And what they had done actually was they had created a mobile site only. So they created a special mobile site, but it only had 5 pages on that. Well, when I go on my phone, if you have 150 pages worth of content, and when I search, let's just say for example, caps and crowns, the actual link to the website will come up, but because you only have 5 pages on your mobile site that are actually accessible, it'll send you only to those 5 pages, which is terrible because Google interprets that as misinformation and they will rank you lower. And our client was basically went from about 175 to 200 sessions a day all the way down to 5. It was because people were searching for these top ranking articles, but it was redirecting them to the homepage, which Google just absolutely detests. One of the big things with really what the purpose of all of this is, as an e-commerce website, your purpose is to give back the perception of saving time. Is how do I get the person, my visitor, in the door and to buying? How do I get them from A to Z and not worry about everything in the middle? And that is what mobile friendliness begins to do for you. It gives back your consumer, your visitor, the perception of saving time. Where they are or aren't, people will remember that. They will remember that when they went to your website on their phone, they could get to it, it was viewable, account creation was simple, the purchasing process was simple, and then they got an email coming back to you on every single thing that you needed and that you had bought. And those are just a few of the things that are possible and that will make your customers remember exactly who you are. But it starts with mobile friendliness. It starts with making your desktop website responsive or creating a whole new mobile friendly site, or creating a whole new, mobile site. Basically, so now you guys know mobile friendly is the way to go. It's obviously a big deal. Google wants, Google has stated that they like it when you're responsive. Now, I don't know if everyone here knows what responsive is, but responsive is basically just changing the viewport sizes, and it understands basically when you're on a tablet and when you're on a phone, how to condense your desktop website down to that size. There's actually another option. It's called dynamic serving. This is the most technical. This is the most costly option of the 3, and we actually haven't had anybody come up to us yet and suggest it. And it's because Google has promoted being responsive so much that I think that that's what everyone's going for. And the reason that Google promotes being responsive is because they've created a special index crawler which goes to your desktop site, and because all you're doing with responsive is actually just making your site compatible with these different viewports, it's still the same website, so they're able to use the same crawler, and it can go through just as fast, and it can validate every single thing that you've done just as fast. One big thing, I guess, is that Google has slightly backed off the responsive. They were really pushing it hard those first several weeks leading up to the algorithm change. They were going crazy. They were like, be responsive, be responsive, be responsive. But I think they slowly realized that some websites, for example, like the New York Times, I don't know if you've ever been to the New York Times, but there's a lot going on that homepage. They have an entirely owned mobile site because they just have so much content that it's impossible to make it completely responsive. So depending on the size of your website, depending upon how many different little boxes, every single thing that you have on your site that needs to be made, there is a difference between having a mobile site, which is its own subdomain, and actually becoming responsive. And if you guys would like to speak to me about that, I'd be willing to have a conversation with you after I speak. But all right, so now we know that Google is constantly changing the landscape of how SEO is done. They're constantly trying to make it the most efficient search engine possible. They're trying to make sure that all your information can be found as fast and quickly as possible. So really the only question now is, are you mobile friendly? So.